Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Courageously Authentic Leadership Summit. I am so excited to bring to you Judy Herman. Now, if you came here because you want to know how to be a courageously authentic leader and you want to learn a simple and profound formula that helps you get there, this is the one you want to tune in for. So let me introduce you to Judy Herman. She is a psychotherapist, speaker, and author. She's among the top 3 best marriage counselors in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Her book is a top 10 finalist for Author Academy Awards, and she hosts the weekly podcast, Better Relationships, Better Life. As a national certified counselor and Imago Therapist, trained in the Gottman Method, she holds 2 master's degrees. Now, what you need to know about that she doesn't brag about, she actually squeezed 5 years into a 2-year program for that first master's degree. So I think we can assess that she's a pretty high achiever. And something that might have had something to do with that, she's been diagnosed with ADHD. And I know many of the folks here that are listening maybe struggle with the same thing, that paper clutter from homeschooling her 4 children, forgetting to pay the water bill, like all those things that go along with this actually, it's not, I want to say diagnosis. That has a bad connotation to it, right?
Yeah.
But it's a gift. It is actually a gift if you utilize it in the way that Judy has. So pay attention to that. And if you're looking for a speaker to help you courageously overcome this disorganization, well, Judy's not the one for you. But if you are looking for someone who takes risks, who goes out there and lives life and really gets into the mess of it all and makes it happen, that's Judy. She's got an insatiable desire to travel internationally. And as a beginning horse rider, she recently rode Gingy. Am I saying that right? Is it Gingy?
That was the name of the horse. The horse's name was Gingy.
Yeah. Okay, before I go into that, I want you to fill me in on that, because as I'm reading this and I'm reading your experience, it's pretty amazing. Please share that.
Well, I did. I went to one of the Virgin Islands, St. Croix, and we, at the group I was with, we went on a horseback riding excursion, and this fellow by the name of Cowboy Steve, which I have since learned there's a lot of people that know Cowboy Steve when they go and visit, that took us into the Caribbean Sea. And so I was instructed to get on the top of the horse and stand up. I was, had to really work on it. And so that was my adventure. It was absolutely nothing has really topped that at this point. I have not tried skydiving yet, but staying on that horse in the Caribbean Sea was amazing.
That's wow. And what an experience that most people don't get, and that you just went full force and said, I'm doing this, it's going to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really awesome. And I know, so Judy, you're a writer, you're a speaker, you facilitate retreats. Now, sorting laundry and organizing your office might not be your strong suit, but you play to your strengths, and you really help people in a lot of profound ways. And one of the most profound that I've seen is your book, Beyond Messy Relationships, Divine Invitations to Your Authentic Self. I really love that, and I'm excited to hear more about that. So Judy, welcome to the summit, and thank you so much for being a part of this. And you and I are together in David Baer's legendary group, and that's how we met. And we talked about earlier just being open to these connections and being your authentic self so that others can connect with you. One thing I'd love for you to share with the audience is, what does it mean for you to be a courageously authentic leader?
Wow, that is an excellent question, because I think it's likely different for a lot of people. But if you can take the very ugliest, messiest places of your life, and I can tell you more about the catalyst for me to write my book, Beyond Messy Relationships, and you can learn and grow from it, and even tune into what your purpose in life is from it. And if you can really get a handle on what is the bigger story, and what is it that God, the universe, is showing you, and tuning into it, and that to me is a courageous thing. I think so many of us, we get to the point where might sit down and watch TV or eat bonbons or whatever, we just kind of tune out of life. So it's being fully aware, fully in tune with the vibrant invitations, what I call divine invitations to your life, going through the good, bad, and ugly circumstances. Yeah. So
That's really incredible. What have you found? You've worked with a lot of people in both their personal relationships, their leadership relationships. What have you found is the thing that holds most people back from being their most courageously authentic self?
well, I think someone, I don't know if it's Mark Twain or some famous person said, um, that most people regret not the things that they've done, but the things that they've not done.
Yeah.
And so really when a person comes in to counseling, that's a very courageous step, number one, because everybody has a story. I think everybody is at different levels of their growth and their development. So really honoring their humanity and honoring their journey. So I think that alone is I think every person I've talked with in my counseling office and even beyond, because I'm doing outdoor therapy these days and doing other things, but it takes a whole lot of courage to share and be real in a counseling office and talking with a counselor. So yeah, I just honor that. And I think your question was what's holding them back? Is that kind of what you're asking?
Yeah.
Fear. Fear holds us all back, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We think that, and then but if we lean into the fear, if because fear is a natural thing, and so some of us fear, or we have anxiety about the fear, and you don't know how to. I think the thing maybe that holds folks back is the lack of integration in with these very human emotions that we have, and instead of letting them flow through because they're designed to move, and none of our emotions were designed to just be stuck. As long as we can move them and welcome them and honor them, that is, I think, the journey toward that courageous pathway for sure, because it's not easy. And the thing that happens in our brains, Tina, that part of the brain when we get triggered, that fight, flight, freeze, your brain's telling you, you better do something here, you're going to die. Okay. But in reality, we're not going to die. It's just like this fear is so big. And so moving into it, exploring it. I mean, it's like easy to say on this end, but when we're in the middle of it, it's a totally different story. So yeah, honoring your journey is the main thing.
Yeah. I think when you just brought up about emotions are meant to flow and they're not meant to get stuck. One thing that I've recognized in a lot of folks that I've worked with and talked with just in life is that stuck feeling. Like, and sometimes we get to the point where we don't even realize why we're stuck, how we're stuck. We just feel stuck and we can't get beyond that. So when you're working with folks in their messy relationships and really owning those parts of themselves, what advice or guidance do you or would you provide for someone who recognizes, hey, I'm stuck and I want to move through this, but I'm not yet sure how to do that or where to start?
Yeah. Well, I use stories a lot of my own life, as well as therapeutic techniques and so on and so forth. But so I was raised in a very conservative faith denomination. So what I learned was you don't smoke, you don't drink, you don't play cards, and you definitely don't engage in premarital dancing. Well, I have since learned that life is a dance. And I did meet my second husband through ballroom dancing. And for the longest time, because my story is that I've had 30 years of living in that first marriage. And I tell people, being a counselor, a psychotherapist is not my first career. My first one was raising 4 kids in a troubled marriage. Well, was it troubled that whole time? No, but I was stuck in that marriage. And so my own journey is that I felt so stuck myself, and I needed, and I have a lot of stories about grief and feeling that. I remember sitting on the ball fields watching one of my kids. We were at a practice, and there were so many hours sitting on that ball field, and I thought to myself, I don't want to be stuck here. We don't have now these memories of gathering the family together for meals and But a thought came to me, which I think was a divine appointment or a divine moment in that point of time where, like my mom, I had lost my dad when I was 6 years old, and my mom was left with 3 kids. And she wasn't prepared educationally. I mean, back then it was a sudden thing. And I thought, here my marriage is slowly dying and I am so stuck. And then that's when ideas came to me about, I don't have to be stuck. What is my next right move? So as far as advice that I give to people, I will ask them, what is your next right thing? Just the one little step that's going to help you feel unstuck. So that's basically how I would advise people. But again, like going back to the dancing analogy, life is meant to move. And the very word emotions, like motions, our emotions are to move. And so if we treat them as temporary guests to our soul, so that's another thing in the very conservative culture that I grew up in is like the disregard of emotions. Emotions don't matter. Well, emotions do matter. I mean, 90 some odd, I don't know, 99% or more of our decisions and what we do in our lives are emotion based. And if we deny that, we're denying our own humanity. So we need to pay attention. We need to pay attention to our gut. I think there's a lot of us that grow up, and I think women, I mean, I'm a woman and I know what it's like to grow up as a little girl and be accused of, oh, you're too emotional or this or that. But, we need to embrace our emotions. And I know little boys grow up and, they fall down and skin their knees. Oh, shake it off. The coaches say, shake it off. And so there's this denial of emotions. So we need to embrace them because there's so much wisdom in them. And the more that we welcome them, then the more that they are going to flow. The more that we listen to them, we can gain some wisdom and we can do some shifts. The problem is that many of us are too set on comfort or denial. I mean, we all have denial and we all have blind spots in our lives. And so we will purposefully not see something because if we did and we acknowledged it, then it's going to require some kind of action, which goes into, and I can stop here because I think I could go on, but I do have a formula that I wanted to share with you about how it's a profound and simple formula that gets you on this step. What's the next right step? What's the next right step to take? And can get you into this pathway of your courageously authentic life.
Yeah, please do share, because I think one of the things you just said is like emotions is motion. It's energy in motion, right? Mm-hmm. And we make meaning of that energy in motion. It's good, it's bad, it's allowed, it's not allowed. And that is where we get stuck, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of just going, hey, this is a data point. What am I feeling? That's a data point for me to go, okay, what's that? Where's that coming from? What do I do with that? And so if you could share what the formula is that you have, I think that would help people a lot.
Definitely. So I don't think I have it here with me, but usually I use this little bell, and I'll just ring this bell. So I use it for my grandchildren when they come to visit, and they're all hyper and don't want to go to bed at night. And so you ring this little bell, and it's amazing how it calms the nervous system. So this formula that I use is breathing fresh air. It's like taking like if we were to do that right now, like take a deep breath of air, go all the way to the top of your lungs, and then slowly breathe out like you're breathing through a straw. So if you do that about 3 times, it actually, there's science around this. It slows down the nervous system. Okay. So the acronym, I take the acronym of breathing air, AIR. And if you have something to write with, if you're watching this and you have something to write with, write this down. But the air in the A is awareness. And that is like when you slow the nervous system down, you can get grounded in the present moment. You can tune in, oh, what is my body feeling here? What is really going on? And so awareness, and this is a lifelong journey for all of us, is to increase our awareness. It's not just to stop at a certain stage of life, but it is to become more and more aware and awakened. So the first one is awareness. And the second in that acronym is intentionality. Because nothing will change if you're aware and you don't do anything about it. It's absolutely necessary to be intentional. Okay, so what are those thoughts? When I was sitting on the ball field bleachers and I was thinking in my mind, I was aware. I was aware of what direction in my life am I going here, and what have been the lessons from my previous generation here with my own mom. But to make an intention and to get up off those bleachers and actually make some phone calls and being intentional to do the next right thing. And intentionality, I mean things like, prayer, meditation, plans, making goals. All of these are intentions, and it does start in the mind. And then the R with the acronym of AIR is the risk of growth. Okay, so you probably have heard the story of maybe you've heard the story of the Japanese soldiers during World War II, and the war had been over for years, and they were hiding out in these caves. And then, of course, before cell phones and all that stuff, they did not know that the war was over. Well, you see, they were dangerous because they were in this cave and they were armed and ready to shoot at anybody that would be even close by. And these village people were really concerned. And so one person in the village said, well, let's play the Japanese national anthem. So they got the whole townspeople together, started playing the Japanese national anthem, and really just saying, the war is over. And they heard that music, they heard the movement, they heard the rhythm and the cheering on, because they wanted to honor these Japanese soldiers. So one by one, they came out of the cave, and rather than shooting these men, because they were dangerous, they honored them. So when it comes to people who are stuck or don't want to take that next step of courage, the weapons that you had that you maybe absolutely needed in order, like I call them your childhood adaptations. Our brains are developed in our childhood. We learned how to move toward pleasure and away from pain. And so we learned to survive our childhoods. We've all survived our childhoods. The problem is that when we become adults and we use these very same unconscious ways of relating, then it's actually weapons of warfare in your marriage and your relationships. So it's a matter of being aware that the war is over, and we want to honor you. And that's what I want to do with folks that are listening here. There might be some people listening and resonate with what I'm saying. And you have held on to things that you thought were protecting you, but really they're weapons of war against you and your humanity and against all those whom are close to you. And it's time to just let the armor down, and you're a hero, because this is your journey and you're so worth it. So aligning with reality in short. Oh, and I could go on and on about this because I have a very intense, I'm telling you, Tina, I have a very intense and dramatic story in my book, Beyond Messy Relationships. When I wrote it, it was a huge risk because it was my second husband's break with reality. He had developed a very severe mental illness. Mm-hmm. And that was the catalyst for me to write it. I wrote it and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, if my clients read it, they're just saying, why are we seeing her as our therapist? But I wrote it as top 10 finalist for Author Academy Awards. And I do show up as a counselor at the beginning of each of the chapters. So if you read it, it's like some people are saying, oh, Judy, I feel like I'm getting counseling or therapy from you and I'm not even paying you for it. So it can be a really good resource for where you are. Because I know there's a lot of people out there that they'll never likely not call a therapist. I mean, it takes a whole lot of courage to do that in the first place. But it's cool if you do. But if you don't, you can read the book.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And Judy, I think it's amazing that you offer that as, hey, I was really nervous to write this book because in your mind, it was like, am I exposing that I've got stuff going on in my life? Like, I'm not showing up as the perfect counselor with all the perfect offers and perfect guidance, but you are showing up in your true authenticity and sharing your story. Mm-hmm. And that allows people to go, I've got my own stuff too.
Yeah.
Like, I don't come to you to get perfect. I come to you to understand my journey just as you've understood yours.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to stay in that space and be who I am. And it's a good thing. I don't have to change it. I don't have to hide it. I can be in the mess,
Mm-hmm.
and it can be
Absolutely.
brilliant.
It was a real relief to me because therapists who write books will write about the intense and dramatic stories of their clients, but they don't write their own intense and dramatic story. I was so very relieved because the very month, I think it was the very month that my book was released, which was in September of 2019, Lori Gottlieb, and I don't know if some of your listeners have read her book, You Should Talk to Someone. Yeah, maybe it's called Maybe You Should Talk to Someone. So I was like so relieved to read her book and thinking, yes, another therapist. I know there's others out there, but I really felt like a lone ranger. And I think that's what also being stuck will convince you that you are the lone ranger, but you're not. Like, you're not. We're all going through stuff. We're all human beings. And there's nothing to be ashamed of to be a human being and to go through your struggle and to learn and grow. And we all have our journeys. And so that is so very vital and important.
Yes, absolutely. And we are human beings, not human doings.
Absolutely.
Right? We all try to do. I'm going to do all these things to get out of where I am.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just creating more dissonance, and you're not able to get out of where you are. It's about just really being with yourself and who you are.
Absolutely.
So, thank you.
It does affect your relationships around you. There's no doubt your own growth will do that. I love some of the stories and some of the guests that I've had on my podcast, and Samantha Kawa, I think she's episode 20. But so if you are in the midst of a messy relationship, but her story is really awesome and profound because she was out to not fix her marriage. In fact, the name of that podcast is Stop Fixing Your Marriage and Be a Change Agent. And because so many people will hold themselves back, maybe this is a message that your people need to know. You'll hold yourself back because you think that if you grow and you take those deep breaths of air, the awareness and intentionality and risks of growth, that it's going to cause even more of a wedge in your most vital relationship, maybe your marriage, maybe your kids or whatever. And it might seem that way. You might go through periods of that. I'm saying when you grow, but you are changing this, you're changing a lot for the better, okay? Because you're so worth living on the face of this world. But anyway, Samantha's story is that her husband did step up to the plate, and it changed that dynamic in the relationship big time. So I really want to encourage folks that might be in a similar situation or a difficult situation, or you're just holding yourself back because you're thinking, oh, what's this going to do with the family? What's this going to do with my kids or my spouse or whatever the case is?
Yeah, because that's unknown, and the unknown is scary sometimes.
It is.
Yeah. But it's exactly what you said. Stepping into that space creates opportunity, and that opportunity can be scary. And it's also a beautiful opportunity to grow and move beyond, not just for yourself, but everyone that's in your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
when you become aware of something, it's kind of like you can't go backwards. You cannot go backwards and be unaware of it. If you've never eaten peanut butter ever in your life and you had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you can't ever not know what peanut butter and jelly taste like together on a sandwich. Right. So open your eyes, take those deep breaths of air and notice, because there is so much beauty and vibrancy and authenticity. Yes, it takes a lot of courage on this pathway, but you know what? If you don't go on this courageous pathway, life is still hard. I'd rather go
either way
to a higher level of living and life versus taking the hard route and being miserable. It's going to be hard either way.
Yeah, absolutely. And Judy, I know you have a complimentary offer for our audience that can help them with that. Can you fill them in on what they're getting?
Absolutely. I have if you go to my, this page is specifically for your listeners. Nobody else gets this page except your listeners, Miss Tina. So it's a complimentary gift, and it's the Courageous Evaluation Wheel. And it's a PDF resource, and it will measure where you are right now. If you want to know where you are on your courageous character development level, you will get a good feel for that. And and then you can also identify where your areas of growth are. But there's certain characteristics that I've identified in my life and as well as clients throughout the years. And so that's going to be judycounselor.com/courageous summit.
Oh, love it. Thank you, Judy, so much for bringing that to our folks. Please go to judycounselor.com/courageous summit and do the assessment, see where you are. That is the first step, is really, like you said, the awareness, knowing where I am, and then having the intentionality to take a step forward. And let's be clear about something. You don't have to know every step and what the final outcome is. And what we see so much is that people don't take that first step because they go, well, I don't know how to bring that into my life, so I'm not going to do anything. Well, that first step leads to another step, and that'll lead to another step. And you may not know what those are right now. So I encourage you to take that step and take the risk. Just like you said, risk of growth. And this is a beautiful thing. Judy, if they want to connect with you in another way, how might they connect with you outside of here?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, Judy K. Herman. I'm also on Facebook. LinkedIn is becoming my main social media, so I'm just going to lead folks to there. I might be on TikTok and some other places. I don't know, but because my my social media people are posting my excerpts from my podcast everywhere. So, but anyway, LinkedIn is it. My podcast, I'd love for you to tune into my podcast. It can be listened to wherever you listen to podcasts. It's Better Relationships, Better Life. That's going to be really worthy, probably worth a whole lot of counseling sessions, because it's like I have some awesome experts. I have the founders of Imago Therapy and some amazing experts in my field. And so, yes, go to my podcast, Better Relationships, Better Life.
Wonderful. Thank you, Judy, so much for spending your time with us and sharing your expertise. And everybody go do your assessment, see where you are, make it happen in your life.
I look forward to meeting with you.
Thanks, everyone.